Ecclesiastes chapter 3. There's a poem about life and about the passage of time. The main idea of this poem is that life is full of seasons, some good and some bad. It's a poignant reminder about life and the experiences found as a part of our journey. But it's not just a person's life that has seasons, everything does. I remember when I bought my first car, brand new, off the lot. It was so exciting and the most expensive possession I had ever owned. Then 14 years later, I sold it for $1. Seasons. The life of a church also has seasons. This body, this congregation has been through many seasons. The church was planted in 1992 as Airdrie Foursquare Church. We met at the Burt Church Theater. We met at Ralph McCall School. We met at what was the time Faith Community Baptist Church. We settled into St. Francis of Assisi Anglican Church for a long while. Our name was changed to Waterbrook Community Church. Then in 2008, we entered into a very unique season where we became a singular church in multiple locations. With the Garden Foursquare Church in Calgary, eventually becoming Cornerstone Church in the process. Then, after 25 years of not having a place to call our own for this body, the Lord led us to this place, this building. And even in the buildings that we've had, we've seen seasons come and go. We were able to pay off our Calgary campus. And then just this past week, we finalized the sale of the Calgary campus. The building that we paid off, we've now sold. And because of that, the first big announcement that I want to share with you today, the first season that I want to tell you about, is that we were able to officially pay off the mortgage of this building. Our mortgage is done and paid for. We owe nothing on this building. Different seasons, each unique, each wonderful, each with the Lord's leading and presence in the life of our church. Of all these seasons, and of each of these seasons as a church of life and church and everything, Ecclesiastes chapter 3 will say, He has made everything beautiful in its time. And each of these times and seasons has been beautiful in its own way. And now I'm also excited to make another announcement to you today about the next season that we are going to undertake as a church. A theme that comes out of Ecclesiastes chapter 3 is that each season begins and it also comes to an end. And at this moment, I'm here to let you know that our pastoral staff and our church council, with the full support and approval of our national church leadership and the national board of the Foursquare Gospel Church of Canada, has made the decision that the season for Cornerstone Church, as one church with 2 campuses in 2 cities, has come to an end. What that means is, as of January 1st, we are no longer going to be one church. We will each be becoming our own church under the current pastoral leadership of each campus. I will become the new senior pastor of this church here in Airdrie, and Pastor Barry will become solely the pastor of the church in Calgary. And we'll be beginning a new season here. A season has come to an end, and a new season will be coming. But not as Cornerstone Church, but with a new name, Hillside Church. Now, I know initially you may say, have you looked where we live? There's not a lot of hills here, but there's several reasons why God has led me to this name, and I'll share them with you quickly, from least personal to deeply personal. First, the name Airdrie means King's Heights. The name of the community where we find ourselves is King's Heights, and the name of the city means that. And part of the reason why Airdrie has that name is because of its elevation. Because it's high. It's on a hill. We sit on the edge of the foothills. If you go outside of our church and turn right, Sharp Hill is literally right next door. And if you go out these back doors here, you will see that our church sits literally on the side of a hill. So there is some geographical reasoning for that, but that's the basic level. That's where I justify that part to you. Second, Jesus, throughout his ministry, would spend time on hillsides. He preached from the hillside. He would often withdraw from everyone to the hillside to find rest. He would withdraw to the hillside to spend time with his Father. He would go to pray on the hillside. And when he died on the hillside. Now, to the deeply personal part of the name. God had given me a passage over a year ago about this time, and it's a passage full of promise of what God's going to do in our church in this season. The passage, if you would like to see it, is Jeremiah chapter 30, verses 18 through 22. And it says this: I will restore the fortunes of Jacob's tents and have compassion on his dwelling. And the city shall be built on its own hill, and the palace will stand in its proper place. The context of this is Israel coming back out of captivity. Now, Cornerstone Church was not a captivity. We were not held captive there. But the picture is of this church that was planted, that was started, that grew as its own church, being returned to what it once was. And that is significant. A picture that God gave me here is things being set into place where they should be. And God says, I will build that city, that community, on its own hill. Then God goes on to make some promises about what's going to happen in this rebuilt city on the hillside. And these are promises that I believe that God has given us for our next season of the church. From them will come songs of thanksgiving and the sound of rejoicing. I will add to their numbers, and they will not be decreased. I will bring them honor, and they will not be disdained. Their children will be as in the days of old, and their community will be established before me. Then this part, I don't know how it translates to being a church, but I will punish all who oppress them. So, there you go. Then God, and this is where this passage really hit home for me, and I think you'll see why. But he makes a couple of statements about what the leadership of this new community is going to look like. God says this: their leader will be one of their own. Their ruler will arise from among them. I will bring him near, and he will come close to me. For who is he who will devote himself to be close to me, declares the Lord. Their ruler will be one of their own. Their leader will arise from among them. Some of you may not know all of my story, but I've attended the church here since I was 12. Matt, I believe since he was 9. Is that right? 9? 10. All right, well, there you go. You were small for your age. I thought you were 9. The leadership of the church for this season will be one of their own. Will come from among the people, just as the Lord said he would do. And then God concludes these verses with this promise: so you will be my people, and I will be your God. So hopefully that gives you somewhat of a picture of where we're heading and what God is doing in this next season of our church. Jesus promised that he would build his church, and through every season that the church would go through, nothing could stand against his plan. And so we're excited to see what God is going to do in this next season. A season that will be beautiful in its time.